I blew it, didn't I? I got 2 bottles of water for you.
All right, where am I?
You down there? That's okay. You can do that. Hey, I know Jolie won't be here. She had an accident, so apparently, from what I understand, yeah. All right. Yeah, Councilman Fowler, you can't sit out there. You have to come up here. We got plenty of good chairs for you.
Here, sit him next to you.
Yeah, you're in trouble, so you have to sit next to me. There you go. Good idea. Good idea. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here for our first of our 3 public meetings outside City Hall. My name is Scott Wagner, Mayor Pro Tem, and I am also chair of our Finance Committee, which our budget will go through over the next several weeks. And I appreciate all of you being here this morning to take your testimony. A few housekeeping rules so you know how this will go. We will start with introductions of the various council people here. So if you haven't seen them before or met them before, this is your opportunity to do so. After those introductions, then, which will be short, I might add to my colleagues, just tell them who you are and who you represent. But also, then after that, we will have a presentation of the budget to give you just some general outline of how the budget looks as submitted by the mayor and city manager. And that will be done by Scott Husengay, our budget officer. And then we will go through your comments on that budget. Those comments will be 2 minutes apiece, so if you can try to keep to that, we greatly appreciate it, so we can do as many of those comments as we can. And then at its conclusion, we will allow our colleagues up here, or my colleagues up here on the council, to give some final comments related either to the comments that you have made or any other comments that they care to give on the budget, okay? And of course, if you have had an opportunity to sign up, you should have done so as you came in. That is the list that we will go by and the order that we will go by for those comments. And certainly if we have anybody else who wants to give a comment and you didn't have a chance to sign up, you will be able to at its conclusion. With that, why don't we start to my far right and work our way and just give some introduction.
Good morning. My name is Heather Hall. I'm your 1st District in-district councilperson, and I'd like to welcome you to the 1st District. Thank you so much for being here this morning and taking part of this important process for the city.
I'm Teresa Lohr. I'm your 2nd District at-large council member. I represent the whole city, however, I live in the 2nd District.
I'm Jermaine Reed. I represent the 3rd District.
Quentin Lucas, at-large, 3rd District.
Scott Wagner, 1st District at large.
Dan Fowler, 2nd District, in-district.
Lee Barnes, 5th District at large.
Alicia Kennedy, 5th District in District, and I'd like to welcome the 5th District members here today, residents here today.
And Scott Taylor, 6th District at large, and I would like to thank everybody for coming out today, and also at the chair's agreement, I would like to have just a moment of silence. I don't know if everybody's heard here, I think most of us have, but Senator Bland passed away, and she was a great leader in our community for many years and a great pioneer, and so I think
that is a great suggestion, and if we could, just a 30-second moment of silence. Thank you all very much, and thank you for that suggestion. We are also joined by another of our colleagues who I will, let me see that, and pass that down. And I'm stalling as best I can, Catherine, but go ahead and introduce yourself to these fine folk.
Good morning, Catherine Shields, 4th District at large. Good to see all of you.
Thank you very much, and I want to echo a comment that Councilwoman Kennedy made. I understand both she and our colleague Councilman Barnes has brought a number of folks here from the 5th District, so we want to welcome all of you here. We're glad to see you, and I look forward to your comments as well. With that, we will turn the microphones over to Scott Husengay. As I mentioned before, Scott is our budget officer for the city, and we'll go through very briefly issues related to our budget so you are better familiar with what it is. And Scott, the mic is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks again for coming out today. I'm going to quickly run through just the structure of the budget is primarily what I'll talk about here in just a few minutes. I'll talk a little bit about some of the major program highlights in the budget, and finally discuss the public process from now until the end when the budget is adopted. So quickly jumping right in, if this works, beautiful, it's going. When we talk about the budget, we usually talk about three parts of the budget overall, and they're structured, and just as it turns out, they're pretty much equal thirds of the budget. We have our business type funds, which is our water and aviation departments, what we sometimes call enterprise funds, and they make up about a third of our budget, and those resources can be used only for those departments. We also have special revenue funds, which are other dedicated taxes throughout the city, such as sales taxes and convention tourism taxes that can only be used for specific purposes by law. And finally, we talk about the general fund, which is, as the name would imply, a little more flexible, where most of the budget decisions are really made throughout this process. And it's important to keep those restrictions in mind as we go through the process. So when we talk about these, I will often say a third, as far as the types of resources and the decisions that we have to make. Overall, we have just over a $1.5 billion budget this year, as submitted for FY 16-17. That is up about 3.5% from the prior year or the current year. And again, one thing to keep in mind throughout is obviously $1.5 billion, a lot of money. 2/3 of that is restricted. When you go back to my third, by either because it's dedicated to one of those enterprise funds or it's a special revenue fund. So when we get to the end, about a third of that is really flexible as we go through it. There is some good news in this budget, particularly as it pertains to our revenues. We have a diverse revenue picture overall. As you can see, there's no one source of revenue that makes up a large majority of the city's resources, and that's a real position of strength in the city. If one particular piece of our revenue pie happens to take a downturn, a specific year, we have many other types of revenues that can stabilize that and keep the city's operations flowing in a relatively smooth manner. The downside, again, as I mentioned, is most of these funds or most of these revenues are restricted in some way by law. What we'll do now is we'll peel off the first layer, and I think I stopped clicking. There we go. And I'm going to talk about our governmental activities funds. And when we say that, that means our non-enterprise funds. So all of our resources, except for water and aviation, and just look at how the city's portfolio is invested. We call it that because much like individual's investment portfolio, the city every year takes stock at how we are investing the city's resources overall. And generally speaking, in our governmental activities, we divide all of the city's departments, all of the city's programs into 5 core city goals that have been adopted by the council. And as the chart shows here, public safety is one of the top priorities in the city. Obviously, it gets just under half of the city's total revenues. It's about double the next largest goal, which is our transportation infrastructure goal, followed by neighborhoods and healthy communities, planning and zoning and economic development, and finally finance and governance at the end. Again, all of the departments, all the cities roll up into one of those categories. And sorry, I have to keep looking back, but I have to make sure I know where I am. And that's the component of the expenditure side. Now on the revenues, looking at this, I think I went too far. I'm sorry about that. Revenues, government activities. That's the general fund. Okay, sorry about that. So when we talk about the overall picture, again, with our funds, we'll usually talk about it in 2 different ways. related to our budget. So we have a government activities, which is all funds, and then we move on to our general fund, which is, again, where most of our flexible dollars are. Now, this is the revenues that contribute to the general fund. And as you can see, there's one of the big items coming up, and we'll be voting on this in April, of course, is the city's earnings tax. And in the general fund, the earnings tax is a huge component of the city's, all the city's revenues, and particularly in the general fund, the earnings tax makes up about 40% of the city's general fund. A huge component. It's more than double the next largest revenue, which is utility taxes on down. But again, it's the city's revenue is a little different from many because often people think of property tax as the biggest part. Here again, in the general fund, the earning tax is a critical component. Without that revenue source, a lot of the city's activities would have to be dramatically changed moving forward. But again, since the general fund is the only really flexible part of the city's total resources, we have to look at how is that general fund divided up, the non-dedicated dollars. So we look at how's the general fund by program, and we look at those same 5 council goals. We have over 75% of the general fund right now is dedicated to our public safety departments, that being our police department, our fire department, and the small sliver on the bottom there is municipal court. So again, when we talk about the general fund, our flexible dollars, most of that's going to public safety. And that's why, again, when we talk about what does the earning tax contribute to, how important is it, these are the programs that are vital to what makes up of the earnings tax and where your general fund dollars, your flexible dollars are really going throughout. That's a quick budget overview on the programs for this year's budget. The emphasis of this year's budget has been primarily on neighborhoods and on public infrastructure. Those were the themes that were mentioned throughout all of our business planning sessions in the fall. For anyone who attended one of our citizen work sessions for the council to adopt its 5-year business plan, we've seen it in the annual citizen surveys over and over again. Emphasis on redeveloping our neighborhoods and infrastructure. So that's the theme of this year's budget. It's reflected right from our business plan. And a lot of you heard about our Dollar Houses program. There's a couple of pictures from that's in the works right now. But the highlight, probably the main headline for this year's budget, of course, is our neighborhood investment, a $10 million bond program to eliminate over 800 properties on the city's current dangerous building list. You can see many other neighborhood investments on the slide atop there, but neighborhoods and healthy communities really is the main focus of this year's budget. We also did talk about infrastructure because that was if not the second highest priority, maybe 1A of our business plan is to continue to redevelop our infrastructure. So this budget includes over $160 million in capital investment citywide. Some high-profile projects include the Paseo Gateway project, the Urban Youth Baseball Academy, continued redevelopment in infrastructure as well. So those are the 2 themes. It's overall as a summary of the budget, again, some stronger revenues, a really strong local and regional national economies has helped this budget to redevelop in those core areas that we've been talking about for the last several years. Again, those core areas being infrastructure and neighborhoods. And that's really what we'll be hearing throughout this over the next 5 or 6 weeks or so. I want to quickly talk about some of the public platforms that people can use to continue to engage in this budget throughout the process. For those who like to use online resources, I like everyone to start with our budget office website at kcmo.gov/budget. All of the various links to pretty much any program or report that you want, you can start right here. This page gives you a description of the entire business planning and budget process from start to finish year-round. Has all the links to our documents. Also has links to some of our interactive tools, one of which being Balancing Act. For those of you that haven't seen this before, Balancing Act is an online interactive platform that anyone can use right from your home, and you can go on and submit a budget to us directly, and we pass these comments and these budgets onto the city council. But this balancing act platform uses real dollars, or the real budget numbers with all of the programs, just like you would see in our budget book, and one can go in and actually balance the budget in a way that you would see fit. So if you want another way to give us feedback besides through these forums, you can go on and actually look at the budget, make recommendations on revenue, on different programs, and submit that to us so we can include that in our overall public comments. It's a tool we've had out for about 6 months. We really encourage people, if you haven't been out there to look at this already, to take a look at the budget, submit your program ideas so we can continue in another more, I guess, mathematical and interactive way to gauge public input. You can also look at our open budget platform. Again, all these links are on the website. And this is a virtual replica of our budget book, except online and graphical form. For those who don't like to turn the pages of our 500-page book, you can click through just these bars and links you see before you. The open budget has a search platform that you can look for various programs, and it's just another way to look at our budget for those who like the online version. Lots of new tools opening up that we're really proud of, and we hope you'll take advantage of them. If you want to submit feedback directly to us, you can go to kcmomentum.org and submit comments and questions that way as well. Throughout the process, again, we're trying to open up as many possibilities that we can for people to give us budget feedback throughout. So finally, these are the hearings. You're at the first neighborhood hearing today, of course. There will be 2 more budget hearings on the following Saturdays on the locations and times you see on the screen. They're all, it'll be next Saturday and one after that. They're all from 10 a.m. to noon. Next week will be at the East Patrol facility, and the final Saturday will be at Hillcrest Community Center down south. So finally, the budget process, we're just starting this out. It was released about a week ago. The council must adopt the budget no later than the 4th Thursday of March. That's March 24th of this year. And so there'll be a lot of time for public comment and questions. We encourage you to reach out in any of the ways that we've already mentioned. And if you're on Twitter, you can look us up at KCMO Budgets. You can send us an email to the link above or any of the other mentions. I thank you for the time. Sorry I lost my place for a second there, but I appreciate your indulgence.
All right, thank you, Scott. Just a couple of recognitions before we get into the testimony. I want to recognize that Councilman Kevin McManus is here from the 6th District. He arrived. Councilwoman Jolie Justice, who had planned to join us today, had I guess I'll call it a mishap, and she is in urgent care this morning. Nothing big, but is unable to be with us this morning. Also want to recognize Troy Schulte, our city manager, who is here as well. And also, although I won't make them stand, we've got a number of members of our city staff and directors who are in the back. So depending on if you have any questions or other things that maybe we either cannot answer or are unable to answer from this stage, I will be sure to direct you to the proper folks who can give you some more detail just in case. With that, we will begin the public testimony. I have at least a list of 7 folks. I'm sure there will be more, and so we will keep populating the sheet as I get it from our staff. But the first person I have is Dennis Lucas. Dennis, please come on forward to the microphone. You've got 2 minutes. I believe we actually have a timer, if I'm not mistaken, Joe, just right up, look up top. So if you're not sure where you're at on your time, you can just look up there and see.
I have some handouts that you might briefly peruse if you're...
Yeah, just give them to Nick. Can you grab those for us, Nick, and just bring them up there? And Dennis, go right ahead.
I'm Dennis Lucas. I'm speaking as a private citizen, although I have worked at the aviation department for 27 years. I'm going to retire this year, so regardless of this budget, it won't affect me that much. But I wanted to speak about what I consider a crisis situation with employment throughout the city. We are having incredibly hard time hiring people. The last 6 people that have interviewed at our location have turned a job down. Those recommendation, those will give you some of the requirements to some of the jobs. The 2% increase that's proposed will still not attract anybody. On that particular job there that starts at $16.29, 2% would be roughly $16.59. People are going to walk away. I personally have a master electrician certification, numerous other certifications. If you're cold or hot in C-terminal, it's my fault because I do all the heating and cooling there by myself. Our staff is a third missing. We have 2 people doing all the outbuildings at the airport, and it's dangerous and it's inexcusable. We have had no raises for at least 3 years. I think 4 or 5 years ago, the city put a step program in and then proceeded to not follow their own program. We're not getting any qualified people. We're not getting any people that have stayed. We've had 3 or 4 people quit because they're not getting any more money. Our water bills are increasing. Our medical insurance is going to go up this year. 2% will not even cover those costs. And I advise you guys to look at this when it comes up because it's a critical situation, not just at the airport, but all over the city. You have an equipment operator starting at $14.04 an hour. I would not want to be in a ditch with a guy that's making $14 an hour. And I tell you what, you're not going to get anybody for that kind of money. I see why that the mayor and everybody didn't propose $15 as a minimum wage because they're not even paying your own people $15 an hour. And this is for skilled people, not for unskilled people. So I propose that we go back to some sort of step system. Number one, in order to ensure people that are hired that they do have a future. And number two, just to make sure that they've got a living wage, because the job market is improving, and because it's been slack the last few years, there's going to be a huge demand for skilled workers. I believe that privatization is a useful tool, but it's not an end-all tool because there's a real problem with accountability. The job that I do, if I'm called in on a Sunday night at midnight to get the heat on, that would cost the city 3 times what I make for a private contractor to do that. I think there's places for privatization, but if you don't have city employees to follow up, those guys are going to leave you high and dry, and each year their amount is going to go up.
Right.
So anyway, that's basically what I had to say.
Thank you, Mr. Lucas. We appreciate that. I have Mike Thomas next on the list.
Thank you, councilmen and women, for your service to the city. I greatly appreciate that. And thank you for this opportunity to share. I'm coming as a concerned citizen, but as well as Mr. Lucas, I'm also a city employee for 26 years myself. I won't spend a lot of time speaking to what's going on with the employees, but I know Dennis covered most of that. One of the things that I do want to talk about briefly is the earnings tax situation. To me, it seems like there's not a lot of urgency or intensity in terms of getting it out to the public, how it's going to impact them. Now, I have a piece of paper here that states all the facts, but there's nothing here. I don't see anything in the media. I don't hear anything on radio. I don't see any boots on the ground in getting to our residents, doing door knocking and telling them how this is going to impact them, that they're going to lose a lot of services that they've been accustomed to having. And so what's our backup plan when that money is gone? And so that's the thing that we need to be communicating in an intense way to our residents, that it is going to change our city in a major way. If we're talking about losing copious amounts of law enforcement coverage and fire coverage and on and on and on, that's huge. And it doesn't appear that anyone is fearful about that. And so I don't know if you guys are restricted from communicating that, or as a government entity, if we're not able to show emotion or whatever. But I think we've got to do a better job of communicating that this is a serious issue, and that every 5 years this is a battle that we have to confront, and that we need to get the citizens rallied around your leadership and say, hey, this is very, very important, and we need to confront this every time in a vigorous manner. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas, and there is very little I would disagree with in anything you said. Thank you. In fact, I think, I think you should join the campaign at this point, too. I think you said everything right. Thank you very much. We're trying not to do any, I'm sorry, Mike Thomas was his name. Absolutely. Keith Nelson.
Could we at least comment that there is a campaign
There
going
is-
on?
Well, we will, yes, we can, and we'll get into more comments at the end. Thank you, Keith. Go
Thank
ahead.
you. I'm Keith Nelson. I live in the North Bennington Neighborhood Association, which is an older and poor neighborhood. First of all, I want to thank you and for all of you for the work that you do. And I want to stand here and say I'm very pleased with my representation I have in the 1st District. They've struggled for decades trying to piecemeal together funding to help some of the huge issues that we have in the Northland. I know there's a misconception by many that the streets are paved to gold in the Northland. That's not true. We have economic divide, just like the rest of the city. In the area that I live in, we've been waiting 65 years since annexation for some of the infrastructure needs in our area. Here within the last month, I've heard a lot of talk of an infusion of money on the south side with tearing down of the Royale Hotel, $2.7 million. We got $100 million in this budget that we're planning on to demolition for some older homes. We've got, I'm going to have to pull out a note here because I made some pieces that I forgot. We've the 18th and Vine proposal for $18 million. We have an agenda here in this Briarcliff-Wynwood area plan that has way more than $18 million that we need in this area as well. I know if this document lays on the shelf, it's worthless. If it's a live document and we try to make the improvements that we see in here, that's what we're looking for. Now, one of the other projects that I see in the paper is a $30 million grant to tear down the Choteau apartments. We may, in the Northland, benefit from some of that funding. However, the plan is to bring more government-subsidized housing into my neighborhood, which is saturated with government-subsidized housing. Now, give me you're tired, you're poor, and you're huddled masses who are yearning to breathe free. But with that, bring a pot of money and a commitment to provide amenities to those who come. In our situation, we have schools, I can name all of them in my area. There's none of our elementary schools, our middle schools that have sidewalks leading up to them. Many of them, there's in the Maplewood, Maple Park area, there's not one improved street with curbs in order to get to those schools. So we have a great deal of agenda ourselves, and if we have to put together a package like 18th and Vine to convince you that we need an infusion of money out here, it's very easily done just by this brochure right here. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Anita Dixon.
Hello, my name is Anita Dixon. I'm the Executive Director of the Mutual Musicians Foundation. I'm here today to give you a Black history lesson. 1823 Highland, March 2nd, 1917, was born one of the cradles of jazz in Kansas City. We are the only building in the world that was owned by Black musicians that still exist. Everything during urban renewal, Chicago, New York, New Orleans, and have been torn down. Congo Square and those things are only monuments to those. We have the only thing left. We're going to turn 100 years old in just next year. just next year. And I'd like to see if I could get those handed out, because what I'm handing to you now is what we've done in the Mutual Musicians Foundation for the last 6 years. I took over 6 years ago under some very strange situations, and we've been able to get a 501c3, we've been able to bring Wi-Fi to the neighborhood, we've gone to Denmark, we've been to France, we've done everything necessary to bring this place to the prominence that it should be. What you have in your hand is a documentary that was done on Local 627. Now, I'm saying all this to say in this Black History Month that we are nowhere in this budget. And down on 18th and Vine, if you were to say anything, our entire history, our entire identity globally is derived from 1823 Highland. Dispute that if you like. But when I went to Denmark, they knew more about what happened at 1823 Highland than the person who lives a block away. So with all of that situation going on, our plan is that we're asking to be a part of that budget. We have laid out a budget that is almost $250,000 to sustain on a regular basis the Mutual Musicians Foundation. We have gone as far as we can go with what we do and what we've been able to grasp and do. And thank goodness there's been a number of people here on the council and the city hall and everything that have helped us. But in this 100-year celebration, we're getting calls from all over the world. We've been invited to go to Denmark within their 250,000 person jazz festival and hold our festival within their festival. We are told, I Skype quicker to Denmark and France than I can get phone calls back from City Hall a number of times. So I'm saying this to say that if you'll look at that information, what you have there is our documentary, gives you a lot of information. The other ones are our accomplishments of the last few months. The last few years. We are actually building the first radio station that has been in the district in 87 years. That's going to be inside the Mutual Musicians Foundation. Not since the days of Benny Moten and the start of Kansas City Jazz has there been a radio station sanctioned in the 18th and Vine district. It is unprecedented. So we're asking that because you support the Negro Leagues, because you support the American Jazz Museum, because you support all of the buildings and things down there, it's time that you take a look at the place that you derive, that everyone derives their history from, and start supporting and helping us. We have a number of things. If you want to see budgets, our 990s, all of those things are all in place. And if you're willing to see them, we're willing to go. On March 15th, we are actually putting together, this will be our 6th meeting that we're having with neighborhood associations to bring a project of cultural heritage distribution surrounding the dollar houses and surrounding the various history of the neighborhood that is a sustainable thing that we're working on called Creative Cities. It's very important, it's very big, and the Mutual Musicians Foundation has just lined itself up to become a World Heritage Site. And if any of you don't know what that is, that puts us on par with literal things like the Taj Mahal and the Grand Canyon, and the significance to the human cultural arts and the human experience in the world. So with that, we're going to be presenting you with what we're doing. If you take a look inside that envelope, there's an invitation to something that we're doing March 2nd. Viola Liuzzo, who was the slain civil rights martyr, daughter is coming to speak to us. The National Office of the American Federation of Musicians is sending their international secretary to Kansas City to meet with us on March 2nd as part of our Founders Day. And there is an invitation there for you all to come to see us and speak to Sally Liuzzo's daughter, who is coming to speak to us on the importance of solidarity and the importance of our history as people together. So I thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you all.
All right. Very good. Thank you, Ms. Dixon. Cynthia Amarin. Cynthia Amarin? Oh, go to the next one. Okay, all righty. Elise Jackson. Well, and just so I can, I appreciate everybody's enthusiasm when they come up, but I don't know how many total speakers we'll have for this morning. So please, if you can, stick to that 2 minutes, because there may be someone else behind you. With that, welcome, Ms. Jackson.
Thank you. I'm just speaking on behalf of the east side of Kansas City, Missouri. We live in the East Meyer Cluster Organization's boundaries, and they are from 63rd to 67th Street. That's just the East Meyer Cluster. I'm speaking for the entire east side of Kansas City, Missouri, which has been neglected for so many years. I'm asking if you'll put some money in the budget for Michael Shaw. That's the solid waste division. We need cleanup down there, and it's not all our doing. We have people from the Johnson County area and all other areas who come to the zoo, the Starlight, and all the things that are happening down there that we don't get a chance to take part of because of the money that is needed to go to some of those activities. So we're asking you if you'll support Michael Shaw in the cleanup and see if we can get some of the blight and some of the waste cleaned up in that area. Alyssa Kennedy and Lee Barnes are our representatives, and we're very pleased with what they're trying to do in our area. But we really, really need your help. It's not all our doing. It really isn't. I pick up, I'm 82 years old now, but I pick up 10 blocks every day, you know, when the weather is clement, so we can use it. But we just really need your help down there, asking you to put some money in the budget for Michael Shaw. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Jackson, and thank you for your advocacy for your neighborhood. It is appreciated. I have Paul Evans next. Mr. Evans.
Thank you, Councilman, for the opportunity to speak to you and women. I just recently came from a big plane flight, but I also was thinking back as I prepared my testimony to my first job when I traveled quite extensively, and not just myself, who did not live in Kansas City at that time. I lived in Lincoln, Nebraska, but the other folks that I would meet with from all over the country. We enjoyed coming to Kansas City, in particular the old downtown airport. 5-minute cab ride, who didn't love that? But even the new airport was very popular, and in particular, in this most recent trip, my wife and I flew through Newark, where we spent the entire 45 minutes there walking from one terminal to the next terminal to our gate, so please keep the flying public in mind. San Francisco, somewhat similar. Of course, we're coming through customs, so you know that's perhaps unavoidable. But at KCI, when we landed here at home, we walked up the Skygate. That's not the right term, but anyway, we walked up the Skygate, and there we were. I mean, it was like 2 blocks away or less. We were at the curb, and our airport is the most wonderful airport in the world. We flew in several airports in China. Even in a small town, which is 1 million people in China, even their airport was not nearly as handy as ours. You know, it's smaller, but it was not nearly as well laid out. So please keep that in mind as you plan. I realize that it's cheaper to build a new building than it is to deal with an old building. I work in the building trades. I know whereof I speak. But do consider that, and frankly, I think some of the problems at our airport is just organizational things that could be easily addressed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Evans. I need a new sheet, so I don't know. Joyce, if you have a new sheet for me, bring it on down. Paul Tancredi, and you're already there.
Yes,
There you go. Go right ahead.
Yeah, Joyce let me know to be here, so I'm Paul Tancredi with the Blue Hills Neighborhood Association. Want to thank you for having this budget hearing. I guess it's a tradition that we've had. Glad to see our 3rd and 5th district council people here. And I do notice from being here at the budget hearing that we do have a lot of new faces on the council, and just look forward to working with you as we work to make Kansas City better. Things I want to specifically speak about is the legal aid economic development unit. Appreciate that that's something that the city has funded for a long time. Believe there may be a request to supplement that, and I believe that that's something that should be supported. They've done tremendous work in addressing the problem of nuisance properties that are still privately owned through the Abandoned Housing Act and other legal cases that they could bring to address the nuisance properties in our neighborhood. We work with Peter Hoffman is currently the lawyer assigned to us. He does an incredible job. All lawyers that know him respect him for the work he does as a lawyer, but just to know how much work he does in our neighborhood and the other neighborhoods in the city, he just has a tremendous workload, gets a lot done, but I think that it would be a benefit to have more people do the work that he does and the other lawyers work in the Economic Development Unit. Want to thank for the continued funding of neighborhoods. We appreciate the CAN Center funding for the CAN centers that still exist, like the one we have in Blue Hills. Helps us get cleanups done. It helps us work with our community police officers that are assigned to our neighborhood to address crime and safety and also youth development. And also we appreciate the different funding that we have for that. But primarily I'd like to say that I think that supporting the Legal Aid Economic Development Unit is money well spent. The work done to address land bank properties is good work. Glad to see that's become a priority, but that funding doesn't necessarily address the problem that we have with privately owned nuisance properties that Legal Aid's work does address.
Very good. Thank you very much. And you teed up our next speaker, Greg Lombardi from Legal Aid, who has visual aids. Absolutely. Please come on forward.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Greg Lombardi. I'm the Executive Director of Legal Aid of Western Missouri. I very much appreciate the opportunity to testify before you this morning. I want to applaud the City Council and the Police Department for addressing blighted properties, and the plan to address 800 blighted properties in Kansas City I think is a great plan. But if demolition is the only tool that you will be using, I think you're missing a major opportunity, because many properties in Kansas City that look like this have solid foundation, well structured. They do not need to be demolished. They can be rehabbed and turned into properties that look like this. And we do that over and over. This is not something that's out of the blue. It can be done every day. And that when you demolish a property, you create a liability for the city. You leave a vacant lot that is a magnet for crime, that has to be maintained by the city, that costs the city a great deal of money for decades to come. When you rehab a property, you create an asset for the city. It's a tax-paying property. It reduces crime because people are living in it. And so when you can take properties that are dangerous buildings and rehab them, you should do that. And let me tell you about the difference in cost of that. To turn a property like this into a property like this costs half as much as demolition. Half as much. And so I would just urge the city, when you're doing the 800 demolitions, be smart about this. Use the resources that are out there. Use the assets that you have and turn liabilities into assets. For the exact same dollar amount of funding that it would cost to do the 800 demolitions, you can do 960 properties. Most of those would be demolitions, and some would be rehabs. But that would be my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lombardi. Berta Washington. Berta Washington. Welcome.
Good morning. I'm from the Spina neighborhood. I also have a house in the 3rd District. But I've been living in Spina for 30 years, 37 years, matter of fact. And there has been nothing done out there. We have vacant houses. We have a lot of overgrown trees that are falling in people's homes that needs to be cut down. And these people are basically senior citizens that do not have the money to have a tree cut down, you know? It's very, very expensive. And then we have some of them streets that don't even have sidewalks. The streets are bad. That means your car is out of line, you know? It's just so much stuff, you know, and it's hard to, you know, really begin where to start. Because, you know, if you have something that you haven't did anything with in 30 years, can you imagine what it's gonna look like? That's our area. And I have a house on Lockridge. My mother and father bought it in 1950. And then there's a house next door to it that I have to keep the trees and the weeds and stuff cut off to keep the animals and stuff from getting in my mother's house. And you just can't do it. It's just, you know, a person by themselves just cannot take care of all the needs in our neighborhood. We just can't do it, especially when you have an older neighborhood. Lockridge is old. 60th Street is old. Swope Parkway is old. Dilapidated buildings. We need help. And we would appreciate it if you would allow some of the money. Give it to Alicia and so she can help us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That takes me through this sheet, but I know of at least 2 other folks that want to speak. So why don't I call Mr. Hunt, since you're right there, and then Ms. Knotts, I know you want to as well, so I'll at least call you 2 next. Hey. Welcome, Mr. Hunt.
Hey, thank you, welcome. Thank you, council persons. Great job that you're doing in the city. My question is the public safety budget. I'd like to see more of that in detail in terms of where it's going, because crime is at an all-time high. And I'm just trying to figure, where is our money going? That's number 1. Number 2, last year, I want to say in September, I met with Jim Kizik. He came to my house, kind of walked the neighborhood. And his effort to help us is just unanimous. This guy is just superb. So as we talked, we looked at, you know, the houses on our 5th District is horrible. It's horrible, man. But what I like about Kizik, we sit, and I talked to you about it, Councilman Wagner, about these demolition. I'm glad that Mayor James, you guys came up this, because our neighborhood is horrible. We went through 4 city council persons. But what I wanted to do was, I had a plan I gave to Land Bank and gave to Mike, is that, you know, I wanted to, since a lot of unemployment, a lot of kids are unemployable in our district and in our community, is that they pair up with the construction companies that the city of Troy does business with. And those young people, we did this years ago with the Phoenix Project, where we had young people, I think, Catherine, you know about, where we had young people go on construction site. We ran them through Full Employment Council. They got their gear and all that. So I talked to this Full Employment Council, and they're willing to do that. And so what I'm saying is, council persons, is that if y'all can get other construction companies to mimic what Kizik is doing, it would save a whole lot of money. I mean, this guy is just coming in next month, tearing our houses down. No questions asked. Thank you, Troy, for really making that happen. But no questions asked. And that will be, people just want basic things. So good job. And I'm really concerned about the public safety budget. What's in there? Because we need to do something a little different. Yeah, we need police department. We need the municipal court. But what else is in there? I want to see detail for detail what is in there, because crime is sky high. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And I would just note on the question on public safety, we will have, although Mr. Husengam, looking at you, what date will the police department be coming forward with their departmental presentation? March the 3rd. March the 3rd. So look at the business session for March 3rd, and that'll begin to get into some of the detail you're requesting. With that, Ms. Knotts.
Hello, I'm Kathy Knotts with Truman Medical Centers, 2301 Holmes. I appreciate your time this morning. Truman Medical Centers exists for two vital purposes: Kansas City's safety net, caring for those without the means to pay for their health care, and Kansas City's academic medical center, teaching those who will be the future caregivers for our great city. We really appreciate the funding that's recommended in the budget of $26.4 million, and we just encourage all of you throughout the budget process to stick with that figure. And in the interest of time, I provided a letter to Scott Wagner. It's a letter that we prepared in January for Councilwomen Kennedy and Hall as in their role as the Health Commission. If you have any further questions throughout this process, please give us a call and we'd be happy to answer them. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That takes me through all the lists I have, and at least the couple folks that I knew wanted to speak. Is there anyone? Oh, we have another. Go ahead and announce it, Kim, if you would.
Ms. Bobby Proctor.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning to all of you. I live out at South Kansas City, between Blue Ridge and Bannister, and I just want to ask for help to help clean up Robin D. Shopping Center, that's at Bannister and James A. Reed, Loma Vista, which is on 87th Street. Out there in that area, those shopping centers, there's buildings that's closed. They need to have painted, cleaned up, trash. The old Shoney's building off of 87th Street has been sitting there almost 20 years. All behind it is trash. We have Cerners coming out there, and we hope that that would help bring some businesses back out south. We can't have businesses out south if we don't pick things up and clean up these buildings and make these absentee landlords responsible for the property that they own. So thank you very much for having me today.
Thank you for coming today. If you want to, please come on forward. I think that took us through, Kim, is that the name we had on the list? The only one? Okay. Yeah, come on forward. And if you just give us your name when you come to the microphone, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, good morning, City Council. My name is Robert Anderson. I live in Blue Hills. I am a strong neighborhood advocate. But before I go on that, I want to thank my 5th District Council for inviting me here. But I want to ask that you put more money into neighborhoods, because when I see different people that I see here when I was very active then, I see Catherine Shields and Teresa Lohr and Ron Finley, very, very strong neighborhoods. And I believe if you put more money into neighborhoods, you can get things done. These absentee landlord that's destroying our buildings, when you tear down the buildings, don't leave it there, put something in there, because you're just making it look that much ugly. And so if the city would put more money into neighborhoods, clean up the neighborhoods, our streets are terrible. Now, I mean, I got an old car, but on my car would sound like it was going down some railroad tracks, riding some of these streets here, but I look down on the street and I don't see any lines on there. It's very easy to cross over to the other side of the street without seeing where the lines divided at. So, I mean, downtown is fine, but I'm a strong believer that, it's neighborhood and not downtown that what makes the city. Who wants to come down and look at a city and see a rundown neighborhood? That people come down here, they want to find some place to go to school and to live. So if you put more money into neighborhood, clean up our neighborhood, as I said, I was in the Blue Hill neighborhood down in Southport, and there's a lot to be done. And I think if we just put more money in neighborhoods, I mean, the streetcars, that's fine. I don't care about the streetcars myself, but I like a neighborhood. And I had made up in my mind that if I was voting for a mayor or a city council and they're not strong neighborhood advocates, I won't vote for them. That's just the way I just believe in. And I won't, and I still won't. So that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you very much. Go right ahead.
My name is Steve Walker, Marlboro East Neighborhood Vice President. I had talked to Scott. I gave Scott some literature that he could pass on to you. I would like to see us do something with more zoning code enforcement. 3 is not enough for the square mileage. Where Scott has got it that we've got one that is non-compliant since 2010. The money and revenue the city is losing by not having enough code enforcement in that department is pathetic. And that's all I got to say. I will be at more public hearing meetings about this, and I'm going to try to enforce it to get it into your minds to do it for us, because we have 7 open cases right now that are zoning violations in our neighborhood, and there's probably more if we look on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Anyone else who wants to speak? Tex, go right ahead.
Tex Sample. I live at Briarcliff, but I live at the bottom of the hill, not the top. I'm also here as associated with Reverend Wallace Hartsfield's Human Dignity and Economic Justice Coalition and with the Moore Square organization in the city. I want to say that there are a lot of people who are excited about this council and the possibilities you bring to our city, and I'm one of those. So I really want to applaud you and thank you for this opportunity. I'm concerned about our aging workforce. I think everybody knows that. I'm concerned about the fact that we don't have enough people trained in Kansas City, Missouri to do the skill work that pays well on many of our projects. We have a school system that can actually train people. Our Kansas City, Missouri public schools can do that. Our community colleges can do that. I think that we're at a good time. The timing is right. The unions are very much alert to this and beginning to make moves. We've got some contractors who very much want to, and I'm aware that any number of you are also vitally interested in it. We desperately need some pre-apprenticeship training in our community, and we need to be training people for jobs that pay a living wage, and those jobs need to be guaranteed. I think a major way to address poverty in this city is by getting high-skilled training for our young people and the people who've been out of the labor market for a time. That's a major source of increased revenue potential for our city if we can do that. So it's a win-win situation. We need more living people who live in Kansas City, Missouri. We need more of them working on the projects that Kansas City, Missouri citizens pay for. We need the carrot and the stick. That is, we need pressure from you on contractors to do rightful hiring, and we need incentives to encourage that kind of rightful hiring. There's more, but you have a unique possibility. The timing is right. Please act on this desperately important question.
Thank you, Mr. Sample. Anyone else? Going once? Going twice? All right. Well, thank you all very much for being out here today. We really appreciate all of your remarks. Now, we will close with remarks by the council, and since I started introductions on my right, I will turn it over to my left, and we'll start with you, Councilman Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank the Finance Committee and Councilman Wagner for his leadership on the budget, working with the city manager, working with Randy Landis and his team, Scott, and a lot of people have worked hard to put together a very, what I think is responsible budget. Now, having said that, each of our budgets we tend to take a first look at, and then the reason we have public hearings is so that we can tweak the budget. And I think we've received some very positive, very specific suggestions today that we need to take back after we hear the next 2 hearings. So we really appreciate everybody coming out on a Saturday morning, taking your time to provide suggestions on the budget. We do take these suggestions very seriously. And so I really do appreciate it, especially the neighborhood, improving neighborhood services. We all take that very seriously, I can tell you from a council perspective. So I do appreciate that. One other note, we've got many people that want to talk, so I'm going to keep it brief. But when I mentioned Senator Bland at the beginning, we also have reached out to the city clerk, and so we are going to honor her Thursday at 3 o'clock in the city council chambers with a resolution. Some of her family will be there to accept. So just invite everybody that's here, but also the council. And thank you again for coming out today. Appreciate it.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kevin McManus, represent the 6th District and District. I also want to thank you all for being here. It's a pleasure to be here. I will echo Councilman Taylor's remarks that this is my first full budget process on the council. Although I served in the state legislature and served on our budget committee, the difference that I like about this job is we are taking the show on the road, and we're coming to you, and I'm excited to be here. I felt like in Jeff City, a lot of times the budget was so far detached from citizens' needs that we didn't get the input we really needed. When I was on the legislature, I came to some of these meetings and I spoke at some of them, and I just was really intrigued by the level of involvement. And so the folks that are here today on a beautiful Saturday, I really want to thank you for being here. I think I'll just make a couple quick remarks. There is an e-tax campaign. I'm not going to get too far into it, but I think everybody on this council understands the importance of it. I've spoken at a number of community meetings out south in my district about it, and I think it's going to continue to be on the forefront of our minds as we try and get this through, because without the e-tax renewal, frankly, the budget in front of us doesn't matter. The second comment I'll make deals with neighborhoods and improvements. I will say I very much appreciate the comments from Mr. Lombardi and others about demolition versus rehabilitation. I think that we need a not one-size-fits-all policy, and I don't think that that's really what's being suggested here. But I think that it's important to recognize, and I just think it's a well thought out comment and argument that there is value to rehabilitation. It's certainly something we need to put value in. On neighborhood and improvement, I will just say that the budget does make some additional funds available for that, and I think that that's a step in the right direction. But I certainly think that there's probably room for growth. I will tell you that one change in state law that I'm very interested in seeing is to deal with these absentee landlords. We've pushed for a change in state law. Last year we got it through the House of Representatives in Missouri State House when I was there. I mean, we've got it already passed this year through the House that will give us a physical human being who's in charge of a property. Too often these properties are owned by LLCs, limited liability companies, that we don't know who the person is who's in charge of that property. And this change in state law will not only require them to name a human being who's in charge of the property, but if they don't, to allow the city to take them to court and to get a judgment in order to get them to do it. So I think it's an important change in state law. I think we have folks working on it. As co-chair of our legislative committee, it's something I care about, and I think that is a tool that doesn't cost any money, but will allow us to hold people accountable in order to do the code enforcement that we need to. So thank you.
Well, my name is Alicia Kennedy. I represent the 5th District, and I'd like to start by just acknowledging Paul. Paul was our driver from Ride KC that brought us down today from out south, and thanks to Ride KC for making those accommodations. Transportation is an important issue in Kansas City, and a lot of people that live in my district live outside of the urban core, and they have to have responsible and reliable ways to get there. So we appreciate Ride KC for stepping up in that manner. Also, I'd like to thank the hardworking staff in City Hall. A lot of them are here today on a Saturday morning, and I don't know if any of them are getting paid overtime to be here. But that goes without saying. A lot of things that we're saying need to happen. We heard Mike Shaw's name. We heard some other staff people's name. You know their names because they're working on your behalf. But there are a lot that you don't know their names that work very diligently to carry out the things that you're asking for this morning. Troy's over there taking notes. He's going to probably be texting, tweeting folks to do some certain things, and that's how stuff happens. But it all happens because you guys show up. And the community engagement process, this city is large. I mean, we're up north now, but there's still some miles to go yet north. that's in the city limits still, and we go way out south to Martin City, was at 150th? It's a big city. And so we don't have enough staff to cover everything, so we rely on the residents to report information to us, to show up to the meetings and tell us where the areas of opportunity where we need to do more. And to that extent, you know, we go to Troy and say, help us find some money to do more again. We're very fortunate in this year that we had an increase in revenue, so the budget went up a little bit because of the sales tax and a few other things, so that's great. But we have to make sure that we're being very good stewards over what we have. We've heard a consensus from this group today and in previous meetings that the focus needs to be on neighborhoods. We heard about the e-tax, and we're concerned if the people who understand what the e-tax means are gonna show up to vote. This is not my plug for the e-tax, but I think that one of the ways that you overcome apathy, voter apathy, is with community engagement. And so to the extent that we get folks to get involved in the process earlier, that are informed about what we are doing, you override the voices of people who are critical saying we're not doing anything. Because you guys heard this morning, we're doing a lot in Kansas City. And there's some areas that we need to refine and reallocate. We'll do more to clean up. You heard the commitment on the housing piece of it. I do agree with legal aid that rehab opportunities are the best course, but when you have limited funding sources to do those rehabs, it makes it that much more difficult. And so I've talked with Michael Duffy and John Wood, and we're working on that to see how we create more of those opportunities to rehabilitate and revitalize neighborhoods. But we're on the right track, and we need to continue to hear from you guys what your interests are so that you can feel like that you're getting a good return on your investment. Before I got elected, I heard there was a lot of disinvestment east of Truce. And the reason why people felt that way is because they looked around their neighborhood, they didn't see the value. And so we're doing some things proactively to make those things count. And I'm just very appreciative that the folks that live in those communities showed up this morning. And you're not complaining after the fact. You're expressing your concerns on the front end so that not only myself, but also my council colleagues will understand the things that you think are important. So thank you.
My name is Lee Barnes, and I also want to thank you all for coming out and expressing your opinions, giving us some ideas, giving us some information that we may not necessarily get as we deliberate these processes. One of the continuous things we're hearing is about cleaning up our neighborhoods. That doesn't include, that does include anything from infrastructure as well as trash pickup. So we want to continue these dialogues, continue these conversations. I appreciate what Ms. Anita Dixon was saying about continuing the heritage of 18th and Vine, the Mutual Musicians Foundation, and so there are a lot of moving parts that relate to us making up this budget, and we think as a group we want to get input from the community, and as we do that, I think we'll be able to become better fitted to make those decisions.
Thank you. I want to echo my colleagues' expressions of thanks for all of you for coming out this morning. We need to hear more of what our citizens want in our budget and not less. But Lee, can I borrow this second? Last night I was reminded of something that somebody once said to me, nobody made you take this job, as I was sitting here trying to read through our budget. This is it, 445 pages. I'm not asking for sympathy, I'm just asking for patience. We will get through it. Keith, I've lived up here a long time, and I'm like you. I still haven't found those streets of gold in the Northland, and I keep looking. So you're out and about probably now more than I am. If you find any, would you please tell me? Because I want to come see it. I think there are three keys to, first of all, we are on a definite upswing in this city. We emerged from a recession that was very, very devastating. And for the first time in a long time, we're seeing a budget where we actually have some increased revenue. That is a really good thing to see, and it gives us some flexibility to do some things that several years ago we couldn't do. Yet we still have a crime problem. I was very interested in, Mr. Hunt is where is the public safety money going? We will be seeing more of that. But I think there are several keys to our public safety issues. One is education. Unfortunately, we don't directly affect education. But one of the keys, I think, to getting our crime rate down is to get people to walk across a stage like this to accept a diploma. There's your first step, okay? Second thing is our neighborhoods. Our neighborhoods are key to what we do in this city. Our neighborhoods are the foundation of everything we do. We have to address neighborhood issues. And I was very interested to talk to John Wood this morning. We're getting a little bit more in our budget for neighborhood revitalization. We need to, I think, try to increase our resources in that area. Housing is key. We have way too many abandoned housings, and I hate to mimic anything Kansas does any more these days. I'm from Kansas, okay, but I live in Missouri, and there's a reason for that these days. But they do a couple of things right over there. One is if you have a limited liability company, you have to disclose anybody who has more than a 5% ownership of that limited liability company annually. They don't have the problem of finding where their absentee LLC landlords are because they can find the people who are behind them. And that gives them a key to going to finding them when they're not doing their jobs right. And we need to start looking at that. Hopefully our legislature will be a little bit cooperative and give us some tools that we need to find those absentee landlords. When Mr. Lombardi came up and showed us the slides, Catherine Shields applauded. I didn't, but let me tell you, that is the right thing to do. If we can rehab houses, that is infinitely better than tearing them down. But there are some that are just too far gone, and we have to tear those down. But hopefully we can find some people who will come in and rehab those. You know, we lay out a lot, and probably not as much as many people think, to incentivize development around here. I think there's room for us to go to some of the people that are developers when we give them incentives and say, hey, while we're giving you these incentives, could you maybe have some responsibility for some houses that need to be addressed? Because they've got teams of real estate lawyers can address the title issues. I mean, they can file a quiet title action as good as anybody and better than most, I suppose. And I think it's not too much for us to ask the developers to take a look at some of the housing issues that we have and address those as part of an incentive package that we give them. I just came up with this idea not too long ago, watching Alicia and Quentin on TV not long ago. I thought, you know, maybe we could look at the housing and look at our incentive policy, and maybe we can couple those together and get some positive results. There is no be-all and end-all. There is, I'm going to wind her down. I know.
I got those people too.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I do tend to ramble sometimes, and I apologize.
That's why you're sitting next to me.
Yeah, I know. And I'm the one that looked at him earlier and said, you want me to be the bad guy and shut people off? And he said, no, you're going to be worse than they are. And I was, so I apologize to everyone. But those are my thoughts. Thank you very, very much for the coming out and talking to us. We really need your input. And with that, I will be quiet and let my colleagues speak more. Thank you.
Very well. Councilman Lucas.
I think the good councilman covered everything. No, I kid. I want to commend a few different folks. Once again, all of you who came out today, I thank you. Your neighbors, hopefully, thank you. This is a lot of work for you all to come out here today, and we certainly appreciate it. And this is not the end of the conversation. So we welcome you to join us, if you're really inclined, next Saturday at the new East Patrol and at 10 o'clock again, and give us more comments and more thoughts. I also want to commend my colleagues from the 5th District. I think it was incredibly impressive. that they organized a bus. We have fantastic involvement from the 5th District today. And thank you all for making sure that this isn't just a meeting we're throwing everywhere, but they're making sure that our constituents are able to be here. A few quick points. To the gentleman who discussed the Northland, I hear you. I'm elected at large, and I know even for those of us who aren't, we care about the entire city. I had the chance to spend time in Northland neighborhoods yesterday talking about some of the very issues that you've discussed, and we'll continue to work not just with this budget, but in our City Hall priorities to make sure that we recognize every part of the community all the time. There's been a lot of talk about preservation. Ms. Dixon noted it. Others have talked about preserving homes. I'll simply say this. I agree with, it seems like, several people on this panel. There's a lot of talk about tearing things down. I hope we talk about preserving things. I hope we talk about building things up as well. I can say a lot more, but I'll save it for next time. Thank you all so very much.
In the spirit of former Senator Mary Groves Bland, to God be the glory for the things that he's done. Every time Ms. Bland would speak, that's the first thing she would say. And today, as we mourn her passing, I think it is fitting that we talk about her, and I appreciate my colleague, Councilman Taylor, for noting her very important lifetime of service to our community. I want to thank all of you for being here today and thank our city staff for all your hard work and your leadership in getting us here with $1.5 billion of a city budget that we must pass next month. It is our duty to make sure that we are good stewards to the $1.5 billion. This budget here has 446 pages. It's not easy to read. I've been reading. I'm almost done, but I'm almost done getting there. But there's a lot of work that must be done, and a lot of you have talked about a lot of information today that is in the budget. I appreciate all of the persons who've come today, and I want to highlight and thank Councilwoman Kennedy and Councilman Barnes for their leadership in bringing many of you, and it's good to see Ms. Jackson here as well. I remember spending nights at your home, and it's good that you're here today. But thank you all for your leadership and making sure that our citizens were here. I want to encourage you to remember what was said at the beginning of the meeting, that the open data process that this budget department has, please get on that website. Please talk with us as we go through this budget and provide input to us. There was a lot of comments about eliminating blight. I echo the comments of my colleague, Councilman Lucas, who just made sure he pointed out the importance of building things up, and also thank Councilwoman Shields for clapping when it was stated. There are a number of things that weren't discussed today, but are in this budget that we must be focused on. That is our street overlay. That is funding for 18th and Vine, and thank you, Ms. Dixon, for your testimony today as well. The Prospect Quarter and transportation needs for all in our community are important, and those are items that are listed in here that we must certainly have focus to. Mr. Hunt spoke in depth about crime and public safety, and something that we must also make sure that we are focused on, and also convention and tourism are some items that I think are important that we really focus on. I want to make sure I invite you as well personally to join us next week, 10 o'clock, 27th in Prospect at the new Leon Jordan East Patrol campus for the second public budget hearing. Thank you for being here today.
See, there's 3 of us left. So you've been thanked a lot this morning. So, but thank you again for coming out on a Saturday morning. Catherine and I have been here before, and
Well, not this building.
well, no, been on the council before, and kind of probably have a fairly decent understanding of what's coming at us with the budget. I would tell you and commit to you that my priorities are infrastructure and neighborhood preservation. So those are 2 things that this city does need to focus on. I love the glitz and the glamour projects too, but unless we have our neighborhoods taken care of, and unless we have our infrastructure, our sewers, our roads, our sidewalks, our streetlights, it doesn't do any good. So I'll be concentrating on those items and looking for those in the budget. I wanted to mention a couple of things. Thank you to some of these people. I mean, some of this I didn't even think about. And Mr. Lucas, thank you for talking about skilled labor. We need to focus on that in this city because we're only as good as our employees. So we need to make sure that we have good employees and we're paying them a decent salary. So I'll be watching that too. The public safety budget, we'll all be looking at that. We have to support our police department, period. I mean, we would be in chaos without them. So I think they do a fabulous job, and what they've got, what they do with what they've got. And to Mr. Sample, I couldn't agree more with, we need to get in there. We need to pay people a decent wage. We need to train people to do good jobs, and we need to take interest in our human infrastructure. So thanks for your comments.
Well, thank you all for being here an 11th time, or however long it's been. First of all, I want to thank the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department and the Kansas City Regional Police Academy for hosting us this morning. This is such a wonderful facility for us to be able to have this open forum, so thank you for opening up and having your hospitality for us. I also want to thank all of our aides. Each one of us is here, but many of us wouldn't be here if we didn't know what we were doing every day. And I'd love for the people who help us every day to stand up and let us just for a moment recognize all of our legislative aides who support us every day and answer your questions and talk to you. Thank you very much for being here. No, they don't get paid extra for being here. We're grateful for the teamwork that we have here on the City Council, that we, not only as council members, but as our legislative aides and the staff. And I see our office manager in the very far back, Joyce, who, again, we wouldn't be anywhere without her. So thank you for all your support every day, keeping us organized and letting us know what's going on so that we can serve you to the very best of our capabilities. Everything we've talked about today have been really vital things, but it boils down to one thing, which I'm so grateful that folks from the 3rd and the 5th District have been here also today. So thank you so much to my colleagues for bringing you here, because what it boils down to is each one of us have infrastructure problems. It's not unique to District 1 or District 3 or District 4. All of us have broken down, crumbling, blighted infrastructure issues that we all need to address. And it's not just unique to yours or mine, we all have it. So what I'm looking forward to is working together to make all the districts have positive positive infrastructure reinforcement so that we can constantly work on that, because we need to have good areas in all of our districts. Secondly, the police and the fire and the municipal courts, that budget is a big budget, but you know, things like infrastructure and public safety in great neighborhoods don't work without the public safety. It is a connected, important infrastructure that if we don't have one, we don't have the other, and they need to work well together. And so it's vitally important that we keep focused on giving the police and the fire the tools they need to keep us safe in our communities. And the last thing I'll mention, almost the last thing, is entrepreneurship and jobs. Many of you came up to the podium and talked about that. It is critical that we find ways to work with our skilled laborers, our school districts that have important job opportunities that don't require you to go to college to do, but they're vitally important. And you know, some of these industries are dying breed. You know, people aren't doing them anymore. And we need to revitalize that with our young people to get them excited about these skilled labor jobs that we need so incredibly important here in Kansas City. So we need to do that, and we need to continue to fund that. And I haven't looked through the whole budget yet. I'm still like Councilman Reed still reading all the pages of it, but I really want to make sure we have funding to help with that. We have a great organization here in the Northland called Northland CAPS, and they work very systematically with getting kids into different industries to give them the opportunity to see what jobs they can have in the future to come back to Kansas City and be gainfully employed citizens. So I just want to thank each one of you for attending, coming from far away and near to learn about this. You know, the city only works as well as all the people who are engaged in the process. And it can't just be the 12 of us up here. It needs to be everybody. We're all working together. We work for you, and we want to make sure that that is something that we can continue to do to serve you. So thank you for your time today.
Like everyone else, thank you all for coming here on a Saturday morning. We all appreciate it. I just want to touch on a couple of things. First of all, the different people who've spoken and said, talked about the earnings tax, and you're absolutely right. If we don't get our earnings tax renewed on April 5th, then all of us could be spending this time outside because we're not going to have the funds. We're not going to have 40%, $230 million in our general fund. We do have a campaign. I know my colleagues have been out on the speaking trail for the last couple of weeks and will continue through the election day. The campaign name is Progress KC. So if you want to know more about the campaign, just go online and you can get information. The headquarters are at 31st and Gillum, and are open certainly during office hours and as we go along more and more on weekends. We have people going out doing door-to-door. For our Speakers Bureau, if any of you have groups that you would like us to come and make a presentation to between now and April 5th, I texted for the campaign phone number, but I haven't gotten a response back yet. So I would just suggest, well, I guess we can't call our office numbers for those suggestions. We got to separate out the campaign. Does anybody know the campaign phone number? No. I say if you go online to Progress KC, you'll be able to input that information. Finally, the area that I want to talk about is really neighborhoods and jobs and infrastructure all rolled into one. You know, we talk in this budget, one of the first budget changes I'd like to make is when we talk about this $10 million for demolition, I'd like that to change that to $10 million for rehab and deconstruction. This city over the last decade has spent quite a bit of money focused on training people to do deconstruction of houses that need to be torn down, that can't be preserved. And since we have this trained workforce, I think it makes sense that we use whatever part of this 10 million goes to removing buildings, that it should be used to deconstruct and to give jobs to our local individuals, not just to one guy with a bulldozer. I mean, I think that's a far better use of our time. By the way, I've just been given the phone number. It's 816-492-8339, 492-8339, and we all have mouths and will travel. So if you know any group that you would like to get us in front of, or some of the other volunteer speakers that we have, please let the campaign know, and we will be there. So again, I think we should be doing deconstruction rather than demolition. But secondly, many of the houses that we have in this community that are boarded up, whether they're north of the river or they're central city or out south, many of them were built at a time when they're actually better construction than anything we might replace them with, if in fact we had the money to replace them, which for the most part we don't. So I am going to be a big advocate in this budget process for saving what can be saved and putting together a comprehensive program to have that happen. So those are really my comments. Again, thank you all for coming, and thanks the staff for both preparing this budget and also being with us today to provide support. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. And I guess I get the last thanks. But first of all, I want to thank my colleagues who have come here today and all of you. It is a beautiful day, and yet you decided to spend a couple of hours with us, and I appreciate that greatly. Just a couple of quick comments. One related to the $10 million in the demolitions. Just so everyone knows, those houses that are on the dangerous building list are not the only houses that are available. And if you seek out through the kclandbank.com, you will find a number of properties that we have that are not on the dangerous buildings list and that are available, as well as through our Urban Homesteading Authority. All told, we have about, and Troy will correct me, about 1,500 lots in this city that have improvements, and by improvements I mean they have structures on them. And so we have been trying to put them out, and I think this is the first year that we got almost more out than we took in. Very close, the closest we've ever come. So the opportunity has been out there and will continue to be out there, whether they are dangerous buildings or not. I invite you to look into that and then to invite others to look into that as well, because I think, as it has been well stated, the best way to maintain our neighborhoods and our housing stock is to actually put individuals in them, and that is certainly what we are looking for. Finally, and I appreciated the comments from Mr. Lucas related to people and the increases, to be able to get more money in people's hands, and that is a challenge for us within our budget. This is actually the first budget in the past 5 that I have dealt with that we will actually not be laying people off, and that we will actually be providing an opportunity for raises, as small as they may be. That is something that I haven't seen before, frankly, and hopefully that means that we are moving in the right direction. But just know that our staff is crucially important to our operation. We realize that. Our staff is also the biggest driver of expense within the city budget, and that's the push-pull that we have to deal with. Beyond that, as Councilman Reed mentioned, we have another one of these next week from 10 to noon at the East Patrol Station, and the following week on March the 5th, we will be down at the Hillcrest Community Center in South Kansas City. If you had fun today, I would tell you invite your friends, come on down for the next couple of weeks, but we do appreciate you being here, and finally, both to the finance staff and the communications staff who has made all the things possible, along with our staff at KCPD for allowing us to be there. Without them, we would not be here. With that, enjoy the rest of your day. It is a beautiful day, so go enjoy it. Thank you.